Welcome in Exile to another video. Today we're taking a look at the Shockwave Totem build that I put together on the Witch Hunter. As you guys saw in the preview, it is very powerful and easy to play. Now you can run through Sanctums, Ultimatums, and mapping, bossing, pretty much everything you want to do in the game. You'll be able to do it very easily with this build. The reason for that is because when you set the totems down, the totems automatically attack. You don't have to aim your attacks, and you can focus on dodging anything you need to dodge in order to survive. Let's take a look at the size of our AoE on this build. Absolutely massive amounts of AoE, and the scales even higher based on your currency and investment into the build. So there is possibility to get this to even a full screen AoE totem build. Basically, we'll just need enough intelligence to get there. So let's go ahead and look over our gear first, and then we'll go into the skill tree and then kind of tie it up with a map and some discussion about the build and the future of the build. So the first thing here we have is the Pillar of the Cage God. Now the cool thing about totems is anything that adds elemental damage with attacks gives that damage to the totems. Anything that adds attack damage also buffs the totem's damage. The other great thing is the area of effect and the increased attack speed actually affect your totems. And that is because it is flat area of effect and attack speed, not attack speed to the weapon. Anything that gives attack speed to the weapon does not affect your totems, and of course the weapon damage doesn't affect the totem at all as well. So with that being said, the other item that we use is the Hand of Wisdom. Now these two items work very well together. Again, we're getting another boost to attack speed, 3% attack speed per 25 dexterity, and this is where we get the biggest portion of our damage, which is from the lightning damage to attacks. That keyword there, to attacks, per 10 int. So the more int we get, the more damage our totems will do. The more dexterity we get, the more attack speed it will have. Now this is really good synergies between these two items, and this even synergizes with the skill tree, and we'll look at that in a brief moment. The other thing is the Warrior Invictus. Now this is very powerful because it gives you the 5% increased attributes per socketed rune. This is essentially just a free 20% increase in all of your attributes. Very powerful. And you can go with maximum life, you can go with global defenses, kind of how you want to fit the build. Maybe rarity, maybe you don't care much for life and you would rather get some rarity, spend a little bit more for your rarity gear. Maybe you're stacking rarity on your rings and stuff like that. So it's interchangeable based on your preferences for the build. Next off, the fourth unique that we have on the build is the 3 dragons. Now this is interchangeable. You can use this with the Black Sun. You can use an Alpha's Howl and utilize some more spirit based buffs, or you can go for the Black Sun to get more attributes, more int, more dexterity, more damage, or you can go for this option, which is the 3 dragons. Basically what this does is it turns your lightning damage into freeze buildup instead of shock. And you know that I love freezing enemies. If you guys saw my last build, which was the explosive shot, we converted all the fire damage to cold damage so that we can freeze and shatter everything, and it's just absolute blast to play. Basically, being able to freeze the enemies with such a huge amount of AoE is a defensive layer in itself. This prevents monsters from attacking you. A lot of times you're not going to be getting hit with attacks. We also have some other mitigation of defenses with evasion. We have sorcery ward, and I'll pair that with the freeze. You pretty much don't die on this build, unless of course you have really bad resistances to the point where you can't survive any kind of elemental damage. Even with sorcery ward, you still need to max out your resistances as best you can. And there are also things like chaos damage that doesn't get blocked by sorcery ward. So there are a few things that can kill you, but when you're mapping in general, it's very hard to die on this build with it fully up and running. The other things, we do stack as much attributes and resistances as we can on our rings, just to get an idea of how the rings look. Then for our amulet, we do go with an amulet that gives us attributes, intelligence, and plus level to all melee skills. Now this is pretty important. When you get plus level to all melee skills, this does affect your totems, and totems do scale very well with plus level to skills. So the more levels you get on your totem, the more powerful it will be. It scales very well with plus to level. And for our boots, this is just our standard boots. Try to get some attributes on your boots, dexterity or an int base. I am basically, if you're using an evasion based build with this, you'll want to get the dexterity and the evasion pretty high. This helps you to dodge and also contributes to your sorcery reward. Resistance is kind of your basic go-to belt, life, strength, and some resistances. Pretty simple belt, pretty good rolls, got a nice corrupt on it, not bad. And that is pretty much it for the gear. For our charm, we are lacking in cold resistance. Unfortunately, our cold resistance is not maxed out yet. So you can see a build in progress. So we do use a freeze charm, basically a cold charm, so that we can get close to maxing out our resistance when we get hit from cold damage. But that is our weakness in the build, and as we get more currency, we will be able to fix that issue. Let's see here. I think that covers all of our gear. We do have a weapon swap. We do use 2 +5 melee, +5 to melee skills, and increase elemental damage with attacks. Now this gives you a ton of damage on our Hammer of the Gods. This is pretty much just free damage. I have this on a 3 link, and we'll go ahead and show you some of the skills and the damage so far. For the Hammer of the Gods, we're sitting at 178,000 damage, and this is just free damage, guys, and pretty much a finisher. You pretty much just cast it whenever it's up, and you can also use it as a finisher because it does 40% more damage when they're on low life. That's 35% life or lower. Pair that with the culling strike of the Witch Hunter, and it just pretty much erases bosses like when you're finishing them off. This makes the build very powerful for bossing. We have Decimating Strike. I'll show you guys in a clip here. I was fighting the Breach Lord. The first Decimating Strike did 1.7 million damage. So the more into the end game that you get into, with monsters having higher life, bosses having such high amounts of life, Decimating Strike is actually super powerful. So I don't know any class that's going to be hitting for 1.7 million damage in one hit with Poverty gear like I have. Maybe in the end game they have spent like mirrors of gear, you know, divines, hundreds of divines, possible. Who knows? But at this time, playing with the Witch Hunter, I actually like the Witch Hunter a lot better. With Decimating Strike, Culling Strike, got Sorcery Word. It's just a lot of utilities that make things, I would say, the quality of life a lot better. Especially when bossing, just getting that huge Decimating Strike, then it busts the damage down on the enemy, getting them down to low life, and then you pretty much activate all that extra culling and just low life damage. And it's just really nice combination of things. Makes things go a lot quicker. When you're mapping, you get that Decimating Strike, then it's Culling Strike, and the monsters just are erased. And that's the reason why I like the Witch Hunter. You can play this with other classes like, of course, the Titan, Warrior, Warriors. The Gemling is another good option. You have Gemlings playing with this, usually using 2 maces playing this build. Now the thing is, they're missing out on Decimating Strike, they're missing out on Culling, Sorcery Ward, things like that. But they do get the quality 2 gems, which is pretty cool, which may give them a little bit more attack speed. But again, we offset a lot of that quality stuff that they do get with our actual Pillar of the Caged God. And I think attack speed on the totems is really important. We almost have our attack time to almost 2. I want to get it to 2. If I can get it to 2, that would be absolutely amazing. As with a speed shrine, we do get our attack time to 2 for the totems, and it's absolutely insane how fast they attack, and it's just doing an absurd amount of damage. The attack speed is very important in my opinion for totems, because you don't want them attacking super slow. You know, of course, when you use these without any attack time, you know, the lower attack time below 1, they attack super slow. So it's like hitting for 49,000. You know, it's hitting a lot more damage, maybe 10,000 more, but it's attacking so slow when these are attacking so quickly. So you're doing 2 to 3 attacks in these before that one does 1, and as we scale more attack speed, it'll be even more damage. So that offsets the attack damage being a little bit lower based on the level. But you know, as we get the gear on the items, you know, to get the items, the build will just get better and better. So far, I haven't ran into anything that I can't do with the build. We're still hunting for citadels and more in-game content. I've done a breach boss. I can do all Sanctum, Ultimatum, pretty much everything that you can think of that I've gotten to so far. I'm not sure of any content that this would not be able to do, because the damage is very respectable on the Witch Hunter. So we'll look at our skill setups on our skill gems. Pretty much for our Shockwave Totem, I do want to get, I'm really close to be able to get this 5 linked. Once I get the 5 link, I'm going to add in probably some more damage. This is interchangeable pretty much with the Shockwave Totem. We use Martial Tempo, Lightning Infusion, Physical Mastery, and Magnified Effect. Once I do get a 5th slot, I'll probably add in a Concentrated Effect. Generally, you could probably get, you can probably get even more damage if you just swap this out, because generally what I do now is I'll just swap this out to Concentrated Effect. Now the AoE is still pretty decent, but it's much better for bossing. So when I'm fighting bosses or doing Sanctums, Ultimatums, I'm not mapping. Anything that's not mapping, I'll throw in the Concentrated Effect because it's just a lot more damage. And then for the 5th node, I have to figure out what I want to throw in there. You know, we could throw in 30% more maximum physical, or I could throw in like execute or something like that, and just get more damage on my totems when they're low life, and you know, who knows. So we'll have to figure that out once we get the 5th slot, and then we'll do further updates as I get more items and gear and currency to be able to fulfill that. This is our Hammer of the Gods setup that we have. Pretty basic, but the damage is insane, 178,000, and it does hit very hard. So it's great, just use it. It's just free damage. That's a really cool thing about weapon swapping, is it's very easy to do. You just pop that, boom, throw down your totems. You got a whole bunch of damage just slamming down on the enemy. You got your Decimating Strike, you got that hitting. Now you have all your totems hitting, breaking the armor. Absolutely phenomenal damage. The other thing we use is, the cool thing is you can use multiple totem setups. So we use another Shockwave Totem setup where we use for breaking the armor of the enemies. And then we have this overabundance on this. Now this is cool because this allows you to put up 3 of your main damage totems, right? So we have 3 of those up, and then we put up our 3rd Shockwave Totem, or the 4th one for breaking the armor. So you have a total of 4 totems. So it's really cool interaction. Gets you a lot more damage because you're breaking the armor, as totems do deal some physical damage, and then the majority of the damage, of course, is lightning, but it does have some physical damage, so that does help. Next, we use Seismic Cry with Daze. Basically, when you use this increases the amount of stun that builds up on the monsters. So this makes it very easy to stun the bosses. Refreeze, stun bosses is pretty powerful combination, as the bosses are pretty much incapacitated, and you're just throwing tons of damage on them. You're throwing your Hammer of the Gods on them, and you just do a ton of damage. Really helpful, easy skill to use, very fast. Boom, you just throw that on them. Even when you're mapping, you can throw that down. Generally, when you're mapping, I don't really have to use this because everything just dies so quickly. Conductivity, again, I don't use this in mapping because the rares, the monsters, just everything dies too quickly. Even in Delirium, Rituals, all the mechanics, everything just dies pretty much instantly. So this is pretty much utilized mostly on bossing. That just gives you a lot of extra damage because of the -35 lightning resistance. Stampede, it was just something I was testing out, not something I really use. Again, I was testing this out for Tank Mark. Unless there's a way to apply this without having to press it, the monsters just die too quick to make use of it. Last, we use Wind Dancer. This is very important because it gives us 19% more evasion per rating, which is multiplicative. So that's a lot of evasion that adds into your build. You want to try to get a quality to 20% so that you get an extra stage. Again, this is very important for your evasion and survivability of the build, so you want to make sure you have that. Next, we'll take a look at our skill tree. Now this is the fun part. So I think I've spent over a million plus gold messing around in the tree, and this is what I have so far. We come down, we get a lot of these jewel slots, and of course in my jewel slots I like to use totem, melee damage, and totem placement speed. Now there's a fourth option that you can look for, but it's really hard and expensive to get. Totem melee damage, attack damage, and totem placement speed. And the reason you want a lot of totem placement speed is because it improves your quality of life, your mapping, survivability, and just all around survivability on the build. Because if you put your totems out too slow, you're going to get attacked by monsters. So having high placement speed is important so that totems can come out and start freezing the enemies and doing damage, killing things. You don't want to skip any placement speed. You want to try to get as much as you can. I try to not get it on these nodes and try to focus more on getting it with these jewels, because you can get a lot of things on the jewels. You can get attack damage, totem damage, and it's much better the point spent because you get 3 things rather than 1. So that's kind of what we look for in our jewels. For our tree, we kind of come through here. We get all the good totem stuff that gives us +1 maximum of totems. Get our watchtowers. We got some life regeneration. You know, a lot of good stuff. Then we path along here because we are a stat stacker. We do get all this attribute stuff here. We come all the way up and we get our defensive stuff here. So some evasion, some more dexterity, evasion all through here. And then of course we get the Falcon technique, which is another synergizer with the build. This is even more attack speed per dexterity. So as you know, this gives us so much attack speed and it makes the totems really fun to play. We do continue along the pathway here and we grab Wildstorm for 15% more maximum lightning damage, huge damage boost, some more survivability here, and some damage with the +15 int. Multiplies with everything that we got here. Come along, we get all the jewel slots. We do use a controlled metamorphosis so that we can grab this and save 5 skill points. Does take a hit to our resistances, but I try to get the least amount that I could afford. This was it. And this allows us to get pure power, which is 2% increased lightning damage. So every time we get int, we're getting more lightning damage, and that synergizes well with the Hand of Wisdom. So it's just overall a very powerful build. Now the cool thing about this build is you can use it with any skill that you want. Totems is just hands-free, blade back. I like totems because I can just put them out, boom, boom, boom. I don't have to aim, I don't have to click multiple times, and it's AoE, very powerful. You can use this with other skills like staff skills. Any kind of staff skill is the best option because you do get the weapon damage with the amount of strength that you have. We have 198. So depending on how you want to play the build, you can branch off to other things, segues into other builds. So you can use this as a starter just to get into the build and then segue into other stuff. You know, you got a lot of options. Really cool build. Really fun to play. And you can mess around with a lot of different skills. And because take a look at the quarterstaff, I have nothing socketed in here, and it's already at 56,000 damage. Mace strike 57,000 damage. So you can see that if you actually use a staff skill with 4 links, you could probably make, you know, a nice build. You see those builds popping off. A lot of the melee builds that do use the Hand of Wisdom. So you can go from totems to those builds. You can interchange things how you want to play. It's just really up to you. Nonetheless, you can pretty much play anything with this setup in terms of staff skills. And I would argue that you could even use like a crossbow build with this as well. Like you could substitute these out for a crossbow and probably do just as much damage because you're getting a big portion of your damage from this stuff here. This stacks very well with your stats. So I think that covers everything here. We got the skill tree, we got the items, we got the gems. So we'll go ahead and throw in a map